Right then guys, welcome back to another video. If you want to go and get the ebook and audiobook for The Male Advantage, which is a book that I wrote and recorded years ago, I even turned it into a paperback book, but we are giving the audiobook and the ebook away for free when you join the free school community. So the link is below and it's the first pinned comment. Right then guys, in this video, I want to give you a no BS guide to genuinely making a lot more money, setting yourself up in life, getting rid of that financial stress, those sleepless nights, being able to have enough money to actually think to yourself, okay, I could get a girlfriend and then actually provide for her, build a family, become a man of substance, help my family out, actually become an individual that belongs in this world, a pillar of my community, everything that men want, a provider, etc., and have the life, not that you've dreamt of, but you can definitely get to a very, very high level where you finally think, okay, I'm ahead. I'm making ground here. This is something I can work with. If you want to get to the upper level, the elite level, that's on you. You're going to have to come up with a better idea and stuff like that. That takes like one-to-one specific coaching. But if you want to actually get to a base level that puts you in the top 10%, it's easy. I can get you there, okay? So here's the no BS strategy. I'm just going to get straight into it. I don't care how short the video ends up being. Here's what I would do. If somebody said to me, right, you're 18 again, what are you going to do? And I would do this at 16 if possible. But in a lot of places, you have to be 18. So let's just say 18. I would go and get a factory job, the best possible paying one that was the closest to my parents' house so that I could walk there or cycle there and back. So then I'm saving myself a shit ton of money. Because people spend unnecessarily and then other times they have to get a lift with someone else. That's just a dead end strategy, because if that person leaves that job, you're now in shit street and you can't get to work. You should never depend on anybody for anything in life. I need to make a video on this soon, actually. It's to do with masculine independence. I might make a whole video on masculinity and put that in there, actually. But I would go and get a factory job, the best paying one that was closest, something that, you know, didn't kill you. And what I mean by kill you is like the amount of like hard work that you have to do. If it's a really, really difficult job, you don't want to be doing that, because as much as you want to be putting the work in, guys, you don't want to be putting the work in to the point where it starts to damage your health. Okay. So I would go and get that factory job. Let's say that factory job. See, when I worked at factories, I worked at a factory called Delphi, which is Delphi, I think. And I worked at a few, but that factory that I worked at, it was about £280 per week at 18 for a day shift. And then that went up to like $350 for afternoon. And then nights were like $550. Okay. When you work nights, you made a shit ton of money. So we ended up being on like $1,800 per month at 18, living with parents, right? I felt like a millionaire. I really did. Now, back then, I didn't see the opportunity. I didn't see the benefit, but they said to me, do you want to do overtime? Do you want to do permanent nights? Nobody wants to do them? Nah. I'd rather, I want time to play on the Xbox with the boys. I want time to, I don't know, go out and party with my friends and stuff like that. Like, I can't be doing nights 7 days a week. I've got a life to live. Because you think at 18 that it's important. Well, we call that the progression bias, where what you think you want right now is what you think you'll want forever. Or what you want right now is what you think you'll want forever. You won't want it. I don't want to go out and get drunk now. Nothing. I have no interest in doing that at all. So back then, I was just spinning the wheel. I was just wasting time. So in hindsight, I'm telling you guys now, if that's not of interest to you and you're actually looking for a genuine strategy, say, hey boss, I would like to do permanent nights. I will also do overtime. So instead of doing the standard 8-hour shift, make that about 12. Well, what's a 12-hour shift? With 8 hours of sleep, you got 4 hours to do what you need to do in your day. Like, that's enough, right? And I would say, what's the maximum days I can do? 6 or 7? Oh, you can do 7 if you want to. Okay. And if I get really tired or ill, I'll just take a Sunday off or something like that. I can schedule a day off. It's not a problem. You still get paid. You still get your annual leave days and whatnot, your holiday pay. So, you can still slot them in. But I would work as much as I could. I would do overtime on nights. I would do nights and I would do overtime on those nights. So I'd either get there earlier or stay later. And you couldn't do it for too long. It starts to destroy you, okay? But let's say from 18 to 25, okay? For 7 years, you just do that, right? And the whole aim is to put as much money in the bank as possible. Now they're going to ask you, do you want to do Christmas? Yes. Do you want to do New Year? Yes. Do you want to do Thanksgiving in America? Yes. Do you want to do all the days that nobody else wants to do? Yes. Do you know why? Because sometimes they're triple pay. Christmas and New Year in the UK in factories is triple pay. So make sure you join a factory that allows you to do that, that doesn't close for Christmas, one that allows you to do nights, one that allows you to do overtime. Otherwise, you're just going to be stuck in a dead-end factory job. Now, you don't really need crazy qualifications. They will allow you to get qualifications within the factory itself. The further you want to move up, the better you can do. So if you end up doing, you end up getting 1 or 2 promotions during that 7-year window, and in that time frame, you end up doing overtime and nights and whatnot. Guys, I'm telling you, you could do 60, 70, 80 grand a year. I know guys that were doing that were in their mid-20s. They were doing about 70, 80 grand a year. They had like brand new cars and all that stuff and whatever, because that was their whole strategy. If you just went and did 60, 70, 80 grand a year and you work consistently, like, I think it's the only job outside of like being a banker or something like that here, or getting up to an elite level, that you can come straight out of school and take an elite level pay, because you can put so many hours in. See, now what you do is you walk to work and back, you live with parents, you keep your bills low, you don't buy anything new, you don't have a car, you have a gym membership and that's it. And you just keep going to the gym, work, gym, work, sleep, gym, work, sleep, gym, work, sleep, gym, work, sleep. Boring, right? That's success. It's boring. You rack up as much money as possible, okay? You get to the point where you've got, let's say, I think you could easily get to 200K in that time frame, but even if you just wanted to get to 100K, fine. But here's the play. I think once you have, let's make it really achievable for everybody. Once you have 100K, you get to the point that I call a baseline figure. So once you have 100K in your bank, you always have that to fall back on. And that is way more than the average person has in their bank account. Barely anybody has 100K saved up, okay? So now you're ahead of the game. You got 100K to fall back on, to do something with. That puts you in a great position. Worst case scenario, you can go and buy a house, okay? Worst case scenario, you can buy a house and be like everyone else, but you got your 100K. Now call that 100K zero. This is strategy 2, okay? I don't care how many years it takes you to get that first 100K, 200K, whatever your baseline is. Get to that baseline, let's say it's 100K, call that zero. That's zero. I don't like anything below that. I'm broke. I'm in minus. I don't need to go below it. Everything above that, you could spend a lot. Okay, now this is the game changer. If you were somebody who was making, let's say you are bringing in 60,000, okay, per year, off the back of that, so you got 100K in the bank, which is your zero. You bring in 60 in a year. Somebody would have to earn about 150 a year to be able to put 60 back into something. Because you've got no other bills, everything's cheap, because you've got that 100K baseline, you're not worried about savings and stuff like that. That 60K is basically free money to you. It's a free hit. It's 60,000 that you don't care about. So what you can now do with that 60,000 every single year is crush it into something else. You could go and put, yeah, you're going to get taxed, you're going to have little things and whatever, but you might be able to have, you might be able to live on like 5,000 for the year. You might be able to put something like 35,000 into something like Ethereum, okay? And then next year you're able to do the same with Bitcoin. And then next year you're able to do the same with a property. So what you're doing now is you've got these massive, sizable lump sums that you don't give a shit about. So you could work for the whole year, make 60K and put the whole 60K in within reason, with taxes and whatnot, a few bills and whatever. It might be 45,000, but every year you can put 45,000 into something. You can make major investments every year. So it might take you like 4 years to get that 100K. Okay, now you've got your baseline. It should be 3 years really. Let's say 3 years. You've now got 4 until you're 25. You just start making these heavy investments for the next 4 years. You get to 25 and you've got 4 massive investments, 100K in the bank, and now you just sit and play the waiting game. I honestly, I told you it was going to be easy. I told you it's going to be easy. Oh, and then by the way, you've also got 100 grand in the bank that you can use now for whatever you need. Regardless, that can just sit there. You can use it. You can do whatever you want. But now you're in a fantastic position, because this is what people do, right? They'll make 4 grand a month and they'll spend 3 on bills. They're down to 1. 4 grand a month, they're down to what? Over a period of a year, they got 12K. If you had 100K already sat in the bank, when that 4 comes in, you could spend the whole 4. Everything could go in every single month. You wouldn't need to care. You keep your bills low, whatnot, and you get as much as that as possible. You could just keep splashing 4 grand in. Next month, 4 grand in. And everyone's like, you got nothing left. Well, I do. I got 100 grand in savings, so I don't need to worry. I never actually technically hit zero. I just hit my version of zero. And you just keep doing that. 4K, 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 4K. And believe me, if you keep pumping that level of money into anything, it's probably going to pay off. It's probably going to work. And what you do, what this solves is the rich kid problem. So they found that rich kids were most likely to become the most super successful people. The reason being is they had funds to play with and they had zero fear of what those funds did. So if they ended up investing 100K and lost it, they didn't care because they knew there was going to be another 100K. Sorry if I move the camera, guys. They knew there was going to be another 100K coming back in next year or the year after and whatnot. Or they could ask dad for more money and they were just testing. So it gave the impression that they were fearless. It gave the impression that they were like that Winston Churchill quote I told you guys before. Success is going from one failure to another with no loss of enthusiasm. How can you lose enthusiasm when your dad's got a trust fund and he keeps giving you that money? You're just going to keep trying ideas and be like, okay, on to the next one. You're not going to worry about the money you've lost. You guys and me, we don't have that luxury. We've got our bollocks of steel. But if you can get to the point where you've got that 100K baseline, everything above that is rich kid money. Where you go, well, I don't care if I lose it because I've got 100K in the bank anyway. Do you know what I mean? It makes you pretty much invincible. It increases your tolerance for risk. You can make a lot more, big time investments. You're not worried about keeping up with people because you're like, well, I've got that there if I ever need it anyway. If I really want to keep up with anybody, I could buy a house whenever I want. It's a trick that I used to use on lunch times when I had a 9-to-5 job. Chris, you can take lunch at 12. Okay. I didn't want to work all day. It hits 12 and I can go for lunch whenever I want. I'm in control now. I have the power. I've got an hour whenever I want it. 12:30, not going to take it. 1 o'clock, not going to take it. 1:30, I'm going to take it now. And then that brings me into 2:30. So I'm like, oh, it's nearly the end of the day. But I got so much work done from 12 till around about 1:30 time because I knew at any point I could go. And knowing that at any point you can cop out and go, fuck it, I'm done. Like that's what that 100K, you only have to suffer for a few years, put that 100K in the bank and then you just go, okay, I've suffered enough. It's there. If I ever want to quit and leave, I can. It's there. It's available. I can literally just go and buy a house tomorrow. Or if you live in a cheap area, you buy 2, rent them out and you're like, I pretty much, am making 1,000 extra per month on top of my wages. At least it's giving me some playing around money. I can then use that to go and buy my own property, meet a woman, have some kids, settle down. If you want the average life, it's there for you. It's possible. But I'm just saying the strategy that I've given you there, it makes you pretty much invincible to risk. Because you just think to yourself, I could lose every penny that I make this year and it won't really matter. And I'll do the same next year, and I'll do the same next year, and I'll do the same next year. And from 25 to 30, you can have 5 years where you're pretty much throwing $250,000 at potential investments and just seeing which one pays off. You are literally able to throw financial shit at the wall to see what sticks. And by 30 years old, you should be there going, okay, 1 or 2 of these paid off. Or at least I'm far richer than I was when I first began. Okay, that puts you in a much better position. You could even play it really safe and just put those massive chunks into like S&P every single year. And by 30 years old, you're like, right, I've got 150, 200K in the S&P. That pays me X per year, plus my 9-to-5 job. I'm all right. I'm doing very, very well here. Like my kids are going to be financially sound. That is pretty much my fail-safe strategy for becoming wildly successful. Now, it doesn't matter if you didn't start off like that. As long as you can just have like 100K in the bank, every penny that you make for, like for example, with 1M International and everything that we do, we're just going to fall short of a very nice figure this year. I won't tell you guys what it is, but we're going to just fall short. Because of savings, I have the ability to go, we can put the whole lot back in. And we can do that on repeat for the next 8 years until I'm 40 years old, and it won't really matter. Guys, that's a position of strength. I told you guys years ago, you need to get rich. You either need time or money. At the start, you don't have time because you're always working for money, and you don't have money because you don't have money, right? So you don't have either. So what you do is, you work as hard as you can to save up enough money to buy the time. And then once you've got the time, you use that to make a shit ton more money because that's thinking time. It's time where you can sit and think. Once you have both, it's game over. Once you have all the time in the world and you've got money, and guys, it's a piece of piss. You can just rinse and repeat the system and get more. So once you've got that like 100K, 200K baseline in the bank and you don't need to touch it, and that's what you don't have to live on that, but everything above that you can spend. So you're basically going from you're basically doing 4K zero, 4K zero. Like some guy who's terrible with money. You're just doing it with like 100K as a buffer. Your zero is 100K. So it just makes it less risky. It's a much smarter way of doing it. You just call 100K your zero. That's bottom of your bank account. You never dip below. And then every year you just invest in like a rich kid would. Every year you invest in like somebody with no care in the world, because you don't have a care in the world. Why would you? Like, I don't understand why you would care if you've got that much money in reserve. So you're just plummeting that money in. That might be your 9 to 5 bills. Sorry, that might be your daily bills, monthly bills. That might be just genuine living costs. But then on top of that, it's, heavy investments. It might be 60% investments, 40% living costs. And you're like, that's just how I live. I've got nothing to show for it, but I can just live like this for the next 10 years. And then at the end of those 10 years, you're like, okay, yeah, maybe 400,000. I'm pulling a figure out my ass just so it's easy for you guys to understand. But let's say 400,000 has gone into my lifestyle, living costs and whatever, but 600,000 has gone into investments, which are now worth 6 million 10 years later. It's a very simplistic way of saying it, but you guys can see it. Everyone's trying to tell you the secret to success. It's the simplest shit. It's the simplest shit. And why do I say factory jobs? Because it's the only job where you're in relative control of how much you're actually going to earn. It's one of the only jobs in the world where you can go, I want more money. Can I do more hours? Yeah. I want more money. Can I work a different type of shift that pays me more per those hours? Yeah, you can do nights. Okay, nice. Can I do triple pay over Christmas? Yeah. And it's like, yeah, you don't want to get paid. Like people say, oh yeah, but then you're getting paid for your time, and rich people, at some point you fucking have to, dickhead. You can't at the start go, well, I don't want to get paid for my time. I used to walk to work to save £138 per month. I put £138 per month into Solana cryptocurrency. You guys can literally go back on this channel, go into the post, the written posts that you can do, scroll back, and you can see me talking about Solana probably 3-4 years ago now. I was pumping money into that for fun. Every single month I was putting that £138 plus around about £300 that I had spare. And it was about £500 per month I was putting into Solana when it was very, very cheap. And I was pumping that in for fun. That's, a strategy that you can do when you have a baseline figure. My baseline figure back then was like 20K. Your baseline could be 20K today. You could, if that's what you're okay living with, but I would recommend going a bit higher. But that's one of the keys is just save like a lunatic, get up to a baseline figure, and then spend everything north of that.